What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday was not a great day at Microsoft after news started to break that they were laying off thousands of employees, which ranged all across the company. But then we started to find out about some of the gaming studios that were affected, and it led to all kinds of questions around some of Microsoft's bigger titles. We'll go over that here today. Also, we do have Returnal heading to the PC. It's now been dated, as well as revealing several new features. And we'll also be talking about Ubisoft after the CEO sent out that email that was quote-unquote inspiring. Well, it didn't sit well with the employees, and they decided to say something about it. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with a game from the Super Famicom that was remade for the PS2 and the Wii, and is now being remade once again for the Switch, and that's called Dokapon Kingdom. We can see this post up over on Gematsu, where they say Dokapon Kingdom Connect is announced for the Switch. It's due out April 13th in Japan. This is from the latest issue of Famitsu. And while they have the pricing at 6,380 yen, still some more information to come, but it will be remade with online multiplayer. And I'll admit, I don't have any experience with this game or series or anything, but I started to see people describe it as a Mario Party multiplayer RPG. And like that immediately caught my attention, and the fact that it'll have online multiplayer to go along with that with this remake is kind of interesting there. It's recently been rated in Germany, as was pointed out by Gematsu, so while it is releasing in Japan on April 13th, I wouldn't be shocked if we hear more information about this game eventually coming west, as a lot of JRPGs tend to do well on the Switch worldwide, so it might not come out immediately, maybe later on, but certainly something to keep an eye on. Also, we do know that Forspoken is out next week on Tuesday the 24th, and now we know when reviews will go live. The Embargo we can see posted up over on OpenCritic. It's set for Monday, January 23rd, 6 a.m. Pacific time, so the day before. It's not too surprising here that the day before reviews will go live. That tends to be common for a lot of titles. But I was trying to figure out what I think is going to go on with Forspoken here with reviews, and based on the demo that we've played and some of the previews and other things that have been discussed, I feel like this is going to get pushed out there, and then Square is going to be ready to move on pretty quickly to Final Fantasy 16 that something tells me is going to do a bit better than Forspoken when it comes to a critical view here, especially with something like OpenCritic and Metacritic. I'm thinking for Forspoken, if I had to just put a guess out there, I'll go with like a 74 maybe. We'll see on this one, but let me know what your best guess is down below in the comments when it comes to a Metacritic score with Forspoken. Oh, and we did have Stadia officially shut down. By the time you're seeing this video, it's gone, but they did post this tweet up to kind of bookend the entire thing, where they say, "To our players and partners, our team, community, and fans, thank you for everything." And look down here, they have an entire credit roll, so it's kind of like we got to the end of Stadia, I guess here. It's fun that they did put that up there. That's great. But technically this puts an end to the Google Stadia experiment somewhat, I guess. For the consumer side, it is, as apparently Google is going to be shopping around this technology going forward to just partners and businesses who want to stream different things. It could even be games. So while it won't say Google Stadia, something tells me we will still use this technology from Google in the future at some point. But for now, that officially marks the end of Google Stadia. If you wanted to see the credits, they have them posted up over on Twitter. Go to check it out. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Microsoft and news that was breaking that they were laying off thousands of employees. Now, I want to say up front, we're going to be talking about this mass layoff that was happening with Microsoft, and I think it's still ongoing at this time as the story continued to evolve throughout the day yesterday, and I think is going to be something we hear about more as we go through the week. But we are talking about people losing their jobs and their livelihoods, and hopefully everyone out there who's affected is able to get back on their feet and find work elsewhere in the industry. But let's take a look at what happened here. We can start with Jason Schreier over on Twitter at Bloomberg saying Microsoft is laying off 10,000 people today. That's just under 5% of the entire workforce at Microsoft. It's including in its gaming divisions such as Xbox and Bethesda. By the way, this marks the 1-year anniversary of them announcing plans to purchase Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. So you can kind of see the optics here. Not great, as they're laying off 10,000 people. They're also still pushing for the $69 billion acquisition. I believe they also moved to make a $10 billion investment in ChatGPT, the AI bot, the chat thing you can do. Apparently they were investing heavily into that as well. A bit more of a breakdown as to some of the divisions that were affected. We can go over to Tom Warren, says HoloLens, and HoloLens, you know, that one, now that I thought about it, wasn't too surprising that Microsoft would move people around or do layoffs there, as they had an initial contract that seemed to be going forward with the US government and the military, but it appears that they decided to cut back on that almost at the last minute for them, going back to the drawing board to work on it. So unfortunately, there are hundreds of millions of dollars worth of contracts did not work out there initially for that one. But we have Microsoft Edge, marketing, 343 Industries, and Bethesda. Now, a little further here, we do have Windows Central also mentions that the coalition was affected by the layoffs. Now, mentioning 343, Jason Schreier had some more insight on what happened here with even Joseph Staten, who joined 343 in 2020 to steer the Halo Infinite toward the finish line, is leaving the studio to join Xbox Publishing. It gets worse here, as they says, it sounds like 343's Halo Infinite campaign team got hit hard. In an email to staff, studio head Pierre Heinz wrote that we've made the difficult decision to restructure elements of our team, which means some roles are being eliminated. And I gotta say, it sounds pretty bad over there for 343, as in many employees were laid off, and it's brought about the question of what's going on with Halo exactly. Like, is this the end of Halo? And that's what I saw a lot on Twitter, where people basically saying that's it. It's over for it. And 343 clearly has had issues. They've gone through restructuring, and now they're very much so restructuring here. But the one that really caught me off guard was that Joseph Staten is leaving 343. That one was really weird, because it seemed like he was all in on working on Halo Infinite. Now he's just moving back to Xbox Publishing, away from Halo in general in 343. So I'll admit I am a little concerned now as to what exactly is going on with Master Chief and their latest outing with Halo Infinite, because the update's already taken a while, and now you're pulling people away from 343, especially someone who's obviously worked to drum up morale at a studio that's definitely gone through the ringer. And to add on to this a bit more, we can see this on Twitter from Patrick, who currently works at Respawn, who's the senior encounter designer on Jedi Survivor, but was a former senior multiplayer designer at Halo, saying the layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. And the reason for both of those things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be. The people I worked every day with were passionate about Halo and wanted to make something great for the fans. They helped push for a better Halo and got laid off for it. Devs still there are working hard on that dream. Look at Forge. Be kind to them during this awful time. Well, you can't get much more direct than that, and I think it's what we all sort of figured was going on within Halo, as little bits of news broke here and there of different people departing and delays, and obviously what we saw at E3, and now just the overall state of the game itself. But this is, again, a story I think will continue to evolve throughout the week with more information getting out there. We don't necessarily know how many people have been laid off by Microsoft at the time of this recording, but that's probably something else that will get out there. As for 343, Halo, and all this, it's hard to say what's going to happen here throughout this year. And I mean, Certain Affinity is supposed to be doing something, but hopefully now people who were laid off are able to find work quickly and get back on their feet. Next up, let's talk about the latest PlayStation game that is heading to PC, and that is Returnal. We now have a release date for it, and it's not too far off. It's coming out February 15th. There's an entire post over on PlayStation blog that we can see here, going over many of the features as well as the system requirements, which are going to look a little better than what we saw with Forspoken. I'll just kind of throw those up here as we go over some of the features, which does include DLSS and AMD FSR, so good to see that, so you can hit those higher frame rates. They'll also be doing the ray trace shadows as well as ray traced reflections. They're going to have a couple of ultra widescreen options, 21:9 and 32:9. This is a game with projectiles and bullets and things flying all over the place, so yeah, the bigger field of view, the more screen real estate you can get, probably the better for something like this. They will have the 3D audio, up to 7.1 surround sound, and custom ray traced audio. They say that way you can get fully immersed, and it will use the DualSense controller, very similar to how it would be used on the PlayStation 5. You'll just have to, of course, sync it up or plug it in. It will still support keyboard and mouse, though, if you'd prefer that. So based on the information they had here, some of the features, it looks like Housemarque really went all out getting this PC port done. And I'm thinking this is a game that's going to do very, very well on PC. Something about Returnal, to me anyway, just clicks really well with the PC community. So I wouldn't be shocked if this one ended up being one of the higher performing ports for Sony, and I think we're gonna see more and more of this happen. We're of course still waiting for the Last of Us Part 1 to hit Steam or PC and officially release, and I think that should do pretty well also, especially since the TV show or the series is currently streaming on HBO Max, and we'll see how that continues to progress, with the first episode being very good. So I'm curious what's next. Is it Ghost of Tsushima? Is it Gran Turismo? Well, that was actually the poll question I asked, and we'll get to that later in the show. Next up, let's talk about Ubisoft, because it hasn't been a great week for them either. They put out that pretty dire financial report, talked about canceling a bunch of projects, basically put out an email or memo to their entire company, talking about being careful and more efficient and cutting back on hundreds of millions of dollars in costs and different things within their company. Well, it appears that email that I guess was supposed to be inspirational from Yves didn't go over so well with employees and the developers there, as there was a Q&A within Ubisoft, and Kotaku had a look at some of the questions and then the answers that were given, and well, let's take a look here. This was posted up over on GameSpot. The Ubisoft CEO, Yves, did apologize, but this seemed to come after they were kind of challenged during a Q&A. Now, basically, there were different questions that were posed, and they would get upvoted within Ubisoft, and the one was, the ball is now in your court for years. It has been in your court, so why did you mishandle the ball so badly? So we, the workers, have to fix it for you. Whew, that's... wow, yep. So then at the meeting he said, I heard your feedback, and I'm sorry this was perceived that way. He went further on to say that he wanted to convey the talent and energy of the company staff and referred to its production process as a collective journey. So several sources told Kotaku that the apology failed to assuage their concerns about the company's direction, that the meeting was light on specifics, and this has led to all kinds of things within Ubisoft. For example, at Eurogamer, Ubisoft Paris staff called to strike following CEO's "ball is in your court" comments, and they're currently being called on to strike Friday, January 27th for about 4 hours. And they have a whole list of demands to go along with that, which does include a 10% increase for all salaries, improved working conditions, transparency on the evolution of local and global workforce. But when you see things like this is at Insider Gaming, okay, and they say that their codename Project Q, this is one of the titles, remember, they canceled many of these, it has been canceled, and if you look back on what it was announced as, it was a team battle arena. And there are many reports that have been coming out now that up to a dozen of these arena battle royale games were in development, and they were just canceling them one after the other. And the biggest issue that Ubisoft has right now is they're no longer trendsetters like they were back in the Xbox, GameCube, PS2, Xbox 360, PS3 days. Now they're trend chasers, and I think what they're realizing is it takes a long time to develop games, especially when you're trying to work these economies into games that don't necessarily or shouldn't necessarily have economies in them, and it takes you 4 or 5 years to put a game out, and by then, who knows where the trend is, and they're coming out with games that feel like the idea is just old or passed them by, And before, they would come out with titles that seemed like they were leading the way. Do you remember when the first Assassin's Creed game came out? I'm not saying it was the greatest game ever, but it did have people stop and take notice. Or Splinter Cell, or Rainbow Six, or Ghost Recon, or when they reboot Prince of Persia into this 3D action-adventure game, and then you were also rewinding time. I'm gonna tell you now, when they introduced that, or you hit someone with a dagger and they would slow down, but the world around them wouldn't, that was like mind-blowing stuff to have on your PS2 or your GameCube. And so I have to agree with the employees and developers that are calling out the leadership there, because seems like they're the ones fumbling the ball right now, and they need to figure out what made Ubisoft so popular and so interesting to follow 15 or 20 years ago even, because it seems like they've kind of lost that. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a sale that's going on with the PlayStation currently. It's their under $20 sale, and it's nice because you can go through these, and a lot of times you'll find games at $6 or $7 even. And yes, they're digital purchases, but they are those impulse buy territory games, especially if you had missed out on them prior. So we'll take a quick look. We'll scroll through some of them here, and we'll start off with Need for Speed Heat. That's the deluxe edition, 90% off at $7. Resident Evil 2, $10. Remember, that does have that upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version. We also have Bully at $9. Can't go wrong with Bully. The Resident Evil triple pack, that's 4, 5, and 6. It'll get you a head start into 4 if you want to play through the original to see how the remake kind of changed things up. And you can get ready for Resident Evil 5 remake and Resident Evil 6 remake, because like they're probably coming at some point, right? Evil Within 2 at $8. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, that's the definitive edition there, at $12. We have the Castlevania Requiem, that's the Symphony of the Night Rondo of Blood collection, at $6. I gotta shout out Sleeping Dogs. It's $4.50. I think it's an awesome title to pick up if you've never played it. Certainly a good one there. Dead Island Definitive Edition, that one is at $5. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, that one's $4.79. Titanfall 2, $4.39. By the way, that's an awesome, awesome campaign if you have not played through it. Certainly worth just the price of admission there. Death's Door, $9.99. Tales of Zestria is 90% off. That one down to $6. And I'll throw Mega Man X in there as the Legacy Collection is on sale for $8. But if you were looking for some cheap impulse buy games, some that maybe you missed out on over the last 10 years or so, definitely want to check this sale out, as there are hundreds and hundreds of games that are marked off at like 90%. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, which of these games is next to come to PC from Sony? That wasn't a difficult decision, apparently. People, 63% say Ghost of Tsushima, and I think I'm gonna agree on that, because it was between, for me, it was between that and Demon's Souls, and that was the second pick here. The thing that's amazing is Dreams is so far down the list, and that's the one that still to this day makes the most sense. It's a content creation platform. It's a game engine. It's something that makes a lot of sense with a keyboard and mouse, but it's still just on PlayStation. But yeah, Ghost of Tsushima or Demon's Souls are probably the two that I would pick out from the list as most likely, and if I had to pick one of those, it's probably Ghost of Tsushima. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Jackson, who says, I've been personally hoping for a remake of Skies of Arcadia. The game was so underrated, and not enough people, I don't think, got to play it. With classic games getting new light and new fan bases with remakes, I think this is one that deserves it. I'm sorry, if Batten Kaitos comes back before Skies of Arcadia, Sega, that is probably one of the biggest fumbles ever. I don't understand how Skies of Arcadia is still just completely left on the GameCube and the Dreamcast, essentially, right? It's weird that they haven't done anything with it after all this time. And it's pretty clear that there's a lot of fan support for this after, well, the original developer took to Twitter and asked people about it. A lot of fan feedback came in, and apparently he sent it off to Sega, and that was years ago. So, hey, maybe we are coming up on a big surprise, and that Skies of Arcadia is making a return in the form of a remaster or a remake, and then maybe it sells well and we could get some sort of sequel. Hey, we can always dream. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the sweeping layoffs happening at Microsoft, at some of their gaming studios, Bethesda, 343, the Coalition. how do you think this could affect some of those games going forward? And then also, what about Ubisoft getting called out by employees, but what do you think they need to do in terms of the management direction to get back to some of their previous successes? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.